All right. Hello and welcome. Looks like we're up to the Scientific Governance and Risk Call number 145. You might have noticed, my name is Peyton. I'm Bros 11 on the forums. Not long for wisdom. He is on holiday this week, so I will be guiding us through this journey of the weekly call. I'm joined here by some awesome folks who care a lot about the Maker protocol and are working and contributing to maintaining and improving it. So without further ado, I guess one reminder that we do encourage questions, comments, all that stuff. So if you have something relevant, feel free to utilize the hand raise function in Zoom, or if there's a natural pause or ask for questions, you can always unmute your mic and give it a go. I'll also be trying to pay attention to the side chat here so I can voice any questions for people who otherwise wouldn't be able to use the mic. I guess we typically start with a governance review. What's going on this past week? On Monday, our latest executive vote passed, which is pretty exciting. Granted, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 core units, their monthly budgets. So a lot of good stuff coming from there. Also added the rest of the vault types to the Liquidations 2.0 framework. Lowered the tout fee, which is the fee out for when using the PSM USDC, from 0.4 to 0%, as well as a 50 million DAI increase to the global debt ceiling to help prevent reaching that cap again. This week, we also had a number of polls up in the system. Let's see here. All but one of them passed, and that was the investigation of the Wi-Fi C type vault, which the winning option was defer for that, but it will still be added to the collateralization framework as dictated in the outcomes section. But the polls that passed, we had a group of changes to the stability fees, gap, and debt ceilings, as well as a change to the overall time to increase for the DCIM. DCIM, I always seem to forget the I, in the parameter changes proposal. We also had 4 real-world assets types pass that were P1 drop, that's People's Company, FFT1 drop, that's Fortunify, HTC, Harbor Trade Credit drop, and Console Freight as well, CF drop. We will be having a discussion about the vote on the Uni V2 DAI USDC vote, which was to lower the liquidation and stability fee there. Got a few thoughts from mandated actors that need to weigh in. And let's see, 2 more left, sorry. That was the adjusting the auction parameters for ETH vaults. So that'll be on this week's executive, as well as whitelisting Yearn Finance on 4 of our oracles. So that pretty much does it for what's happened in terms of governance votes. We do also have a brief update from me for the governance core unit. We've been pretty busy on things, obviously with long on holiday trying to add things in. I will drop the link to that in the chat so you can explore at your own time, but I'll give you the 3-point summary. The governance alpha multisig is live, and we were able to make our first distribution before Long took his holiday. He is on holiday. He will be back on Monday. And we are meeting with the talent unit that's in the incubation program for SES, looking to further onboard more GovAlpha members. Lastly, just a lot of Peyton talking at the top. I promise that'll be less in the future. We have a governance or a forum at the glance rather update from Pablo. And I will also drop that here in the chat. I'll be reading through it for him. I really appreciate him putting it together. Shout out to DAI crossing 5 billion. I know that wasn't on here, but it was a big thing I was happy to announce, so I'll go ahead and do that. In terms of active discussions here on the forum, we have a discussion about Maker not being a lender, how it doesn't take deposits from Paper Imperium. Had the weekly source credit distribution thread get a lot of activity this week from Espen over at SourceCred. And a cool discussion on Maker and Layer 2, avoiding Wren's mistake. That was posted by Planet X. Let's see here. Looks like we got a few signal requests as well. Pablo just messaged me saying that one did get left off on one of Shupi's signals for doing whatever it takes to maintain the PSM USDC A vault. So that will be added into there. And so you'll have the link up shortly to that. There's another signal request for offboarding unprofitable collateral types, again from Shupi. And a final one on adjusting the TTL on flap auctions, again from Shupi. So pretty active week. You can tell he's back from vacation. Awesome. That is way more than enough talking for me. So I will go ahead and kick it to our next agenda topic, which will be an update from the protocol engineering team.
All right, thanks. Yeah, and Peyton, take as much time as you want in that section. The rest of us are just sort of writing our sections while you're talking. So everybody, Chris from Protocol Engineering. I'm going to go through just sort of a list of updates that we worked on this week. So with regards to the schedule, this week is going to be a bunch of the like rates group changes and the stuff that Peyton had mentioned. But then next week we were originally planning on doing the sort of centrifuge assets. They were going to go to Covan on Friday, but that might be pushed back a little bit because they're in the middle of an audit right now, and some of the debt ceilings increases, I think, were a little beyond the scope of where we had originally recommended they be set until they got a second audit. And so it sounds like they're dealing with their auditors, and so maybe next week we're not going to do the real world asset stuff, but that's what Centrifuge is working on, and that's sort of where they may fall on the timeline, would be like beyond 2 weeks from now, but mostly dependent on that team. So for collateral onboarding, we had to make some changes to the DSS proxy actions to support the Sushi LP tokens and also the sort of PAX-G adapter, and I think that's going to require some UI changes as well. And we have been working on the Sushi Join adapter, which is, we've been waiting for the MasterChef V2 to get updated. So there's some integration tests and interface changes there. And then for modules, there's a bunch of discussion and code tidying up and whatnot happening around the DSS Vest, which again is going to be how we distribute MKR to teams, and also how we eventually will end up like paying teams DAI. So there's a lot of discussion and updates happening around that. We talked about the D3M direct deposit module for Aave today, and just sort of starting to kind of think about like all of the different cases around emergency shutdown and whatnot for that. Vote delegation is completed. It's passing RPC tests, and the audit was finished by ABDK. So we may end up having that like much governance action there. So we'll probably end up having to discuss, I'll leave it in Peyton's hands, like however you're, oh, did I get Starlinked? Did that happen?
Super brief, actually.
Okay, cool. All right. Yeah, so on my screen, it popped up and told me my internet connection was unstable. So there'll maybe be some discussion that governance wants to have around exactly what that looks like and how you present delegates, that sort of thing. But there's no core changes to the protocol in order to use this contract, so which is pretty nice. It helps my stress level. So, and then also there's the DSS Flash mint module, which is Flash minting DAI, and so we're finalizing some code changes and aligning best practices there. Miscellaneous work, just to sort of dot our I's and cross our T's. We've been helping a lot on the auction demo keeper, which is the sort of treating it as kind of a backstop keeper for liquidations. And we've put some work into the Clipper call lead to support LP tokens there. So if anyone wants to run that, you can grab that keeper, and it should have LP token support. And we'll try and keep it up to date as we add different collateral types like the sushi join and whatnot. So it's pretty easy to run. You just need a private key. You put your private key file in place and you start the thing up. It does all your authorizations. All you need is a little bit of Ethereum, and then just like that, you're backstopping the protocol. And if you get lucky, you make money on a liquidation. So let's see. Also, there's going to be a small enhancement to. It's actually an implementation change to the Clipper. A TAC function will be added for the sushi join adapter, I think, to collect rewards. That won't change the interfaces, but that's another thing that we're working on. And then just for some administrative stuff, we've been transferring auditor and tooling legal agreements from the foundation over to the DAO. And also, I just wanted to just generally remind everyone, I think a few people are aware because we get some regulars, but Protocol Engineering has office hours every Tuesday at 3 p.m. UTC, 1500 UTC. So if you guys ever want to ask us questions or whatnot, there's a number of us on that are available to answer those questions. So, and then just further discussions, we've been talking a lot about stake death and evaluating stake death, the implications of stake death in this space and what it means for Maker. And also, we've been thinking about a Uni v3 fixed spread token. Sam has been kind of looking at that, hoping that we can maybe get like a sort of standard equivalent of an LP token on a fixed spread for like-kind assets with Uniswap, and that way we can create like a vault that possibly will suck some of the stuff from or USDC or whatever from the PSM, and people will like naturally create vaults there, and then maybe there's even an angle where we can use something like this in place of or as the collateral backing the PSM, which is from a security perspective is attractive because it means that the blacklist risk would be one step remote. It would be in this more generic token that many more community members would be participating in, and so we could take some of that blacklist risk and remove it. And that is it for me, unless there's someone else on the protocol engineering team that wants to mention something or can think of something I forgot.
Also open the door briefly for questions, I guess. Was kind of a lot of information between those first two posts.
Yeah, and maybe I'll just clarify a little bit about the fixed spread Uni v3 thing. So yeah, the idea is to roll this out. It's still in the investigative phase, but the idea is to roll this out for DAI USDC potentially at some fixed spread just around $1. And we could potentially offer this with super high leverage because it's not that much different than the USDC vault we have now, except we can have it'll be a regular vault. So it's no longer on Maker's books. So what Chris mentioned, we get the blacklist risk bonus, as well as we can start charging interest for this mountain of USDC we have on our books right now. So still investigating, it's not a done deal yet, but I think it's possible.
Oh, there's a lot of L2 work in there that didn't get, that I didn't even really mention. So there's a lot happening on L2, and we've been talking with pretty much every like L2 provider in the space at this point. We had a call with Starkware this morning to talk about, what it would look like if we were there. So there's lots of sort of scaling stuff in the pipeline as well.
Awesome. Well, seeing no other things at this point, let's go ahead and move on to Nick with the Oracle's update.
Cool. Yeah, so earlier this week, we moved the Oracle Core Unit MIPs into formal submission. So those will be included in the June kind of governance cycle. So we're very excited about that. There's kind of a lot of work going on behind the scenes in terms of setting up the core unit. I won't bore you with too many of the details, but it's a lot of fun. in terms of polling, right, we had kind of a bunch of polls related to whitelisting for urine vaults this week. I believe all of those passed last time I checked. So those will be going into the executive vote tomorrow. All of those are for new delegated vaults that urine is doing. So essentially you can, have users lock up, say like Uni or Link tokens or Aave tokens. And it'll put those in Maker or borrow DAI and then use the DAI to yield farm in kind of the urine kind of DAI vault. Excuse me. Um, kind of related to that, a little bit tangential, is the fact that I'm probably going to be submitting a MIP soon to start delegating a lot of the authority for non-dangerous kind of Oracle functions to the Oracle core unit. So things like whitelisting, for example, there's no damage that can be done to the protocol by giving the Oracle core unit whitelisting functionality. So long as we don't have, authority to remove entities from the whitelist. And this is just it just makes a lot of sense, right? Rather than going through like a 3-week governance process or something, right, before or like 2 weeks, depending on when you submit the proposal, right, to get whitelisted. That's like a 2-week onboarding kind of cost. If we can do, a 24 or a 48-hour kind of onboarding interval, I feel like that would go a long way with kind of getting new customers. And we can still have kind of the governance process, right, to ratify all this stuff, right? So if we whitelist someone and then go like, never mind, right? We can kind of post facto say, okay, edit, undo. But I think it makes sense to just delegate the authority to kind of whitelist, right? And that cuts down on kind of the polling vote spam as well, right? It just makes a lot of sense. And there's a couple other functions here that are useful to delegate that I'll detail in the MIP. But the whitelisting one is kind of the important one. So we've also been within the mandated actors, we've been talking a lot more about staked ETH. There seems to be a lot of interest in adding staked ETH, and there seems to be kind of this more macro vision that all ETH will become staked ETH at some point, right? That transition is going to happen eventually, and that it's really just about yield, right? Right now, right, there's just liquidity, right? There's no direct redeemability. There's just liquidity to go between staked ETH and ETH. But with the merge happening and, maybe about 6 months is the estimate, right? You'll end up having direct redeemability for staked ETH, right? There will still be a queue, right? There's like just like you have a validator kind of onboarding queue, you'll have a validator offboarding queue. Excuse me. But you get closer and closer to that direct redeemability. And in the end, we kind of see for most protocols, right, where there's a ton of ETH and all these things, we see most of that becoming some form of staked ETH. Now, not necessarily that it has to be staked ETH from Lido, but the kind of different staking derivatives that are going to pop up for ETH are going to be it's going to kind of just be like the systemic shift. So we've kind of recognized that. And we know that our competitors are adding things like staked ETH, so it's almost like a defensive move now, where we have to onboard it, or we risk some of our kind of large vaults and institutional clients switching over to our competitors because we don't support staked ETH kind of derivatives. So yeah, so we're kind of pushing that forward and prioritizing that. we had looked at this in the past actually, and it was kind of the Oracle team that had kind of blocked this, in particular because creating a staked ETH Oracle is rather difficult to do in a safe manner because all of the liquidity is exclusively in Curve. Right, so there's maybe like tiny pockets of liquidity in other areas, but Curve is the one that's the incentivized pool, right? That gives you Curve tokens and Lido tokens. And so it's really difficult to construct kind of a safe Oracle that's just based on kind of one DEX. I think if you've looked at the DEX as an Oracle kind of a pattern, right, in the past, that's led to a lot of exploits, right, in particular with flash loans, right? If you can flash loan and move the price on a DEX and then utilize that price, right, you can pretty much manipulate it at will. But there are some workarounds for this, and so the Lido team has sent us a an Oracle that they've created that we're kind of investigating right now. It basically tries to take the price from discrete points and compare them to each other. And so you can use the real-time price so long as the difference between the previous price and the current price is not too large. But we may end up kind of creating our own thing anyway. But the point is that we're just putting a lot of effort right now into figuring out the staked ETH problem. So this leads me to, there was a signaling poll that passed this week to change the DAI USDC LP parameters. In particular, right, it was lowering the stability fee. I believe, what did we lower the stability fee to? I think it was 1%.
0.5%.
0.5%, okay. And the collateralization ratio to 101%, right, which provides a lot more leverage. As the kind of Oracle team, I want to kind of mix that and say that I think the lowest that we can do it safely is 102%. And here's why. So, nice one, Chris. The LP token Oracle is based off of math that does approximations, right? There are things that we did to optimize for gas that doesn't compute things, very precisely, but only computes them, to an approximation. And for the most part, if you compare the Oracle price to the real price, the drift is not that bad. Like it's within kind of tolerable bounds. The problem is that in a worst case scenario, where every approximation, kind of is on the far side of the curve and goes in the same direction. In extreme cases, right, we could see like a 1% difference between the price that the Oracle reports and between the actual price of the LP token. And so this could mean that someone could potentially end up, minting DAI profitably, right? And as soon as you can mint DAI profitably, it's quite problematic, right? Because you can basically lever up all the way to the debt ceiling and just take free money from the protocol. So we have to be extremely careful about this kind of stuff. So I'm suggesting that we, instead of putting a 101% for DAI USDC in the executive, that we do 102%. It still gives a much greater amount of leverage, right, than we are currently doing. And, in terms of safety, it's like, at least from the Oracle risk, like it's like 100 times safer is kind of the random number I'm going to throw out there. So with that weird vested authority in me, I'm just gonna make sure that it's 102% instead of 101% in the executive vote. But if the community feels very strongly that it wants to do 101%, they should just do another signal kind of poll on the forum, and we can go from there. And I believe that's it from the Oracle side.
On that same topic, I believe we were going to plan on leaving liquidations off, right? We discussed that in the mandated actors as well.
Yep.
Just so that we can get a better set of liquidation parameters for it. Yeah. So that means 0.5% for that collateral type, 102% collateralization ratio, liquidation stay off right now.
And I do have this on here as a discussion topic for later in the call. So if there's questions on any other aspects of Nick's update, that'd be great. But if you do have more questions and want to explore that particular topic, we will be circling back to it.
Yeah, I just want to mention, Nick, I've got kind of an idea in my head for an instant access module that would allow you to whitelist oracles and not whitelist them. So if you wanted to work together, we could probably come up with a technical implementation by the time you put out your MIP.
Okay, yeah, sounds good.
Awesome. Seeing nothing else at the moment, let's go ahead and move on to risk. Pramosh, are you around to give an update?
Yep. So regarding collateral evaluations, we are finishing the last two evaluations for sushi. And this would be sushi eat, sushi LP pair, and X sushi. And this should be posted in the following days. And then we started discussing the next potential implementations or collateral onboardings between other facilitators. Actually, Chris and Nick already mentioned that we'll likely focus on 3 large implementations or evaluations, which will occupy us specifically in the risk for the next few weeks. And this would be potentially, as was already said, staked it, collateral onboarding, D3M model implementation, and Polygon collateral onboarding. We believe all of these implementations or onboardings could lead to more meaningful new DAI supply, which we all know is needed right now. Both staked it and D3M module risk assessment will be a bit more demanding on our side, specifically D3M module, where we need to basically evaluate Aave protocol risk instead of just usual collateral risk. So we'll probably need to spend a bit more time here than usual. Just to refresh a bit what D3M module is, it's basically depositing newly minted DAI to Aave and receiving a DAI in return. The idea is to provide DAI liquidity to Aave and earn supply rates. From risk perspective, this means DAI is essentially collateralized by other collateral that Aave borrowers deposited at Aave. So this means we need to evaluate Aave protocol risk basically from as many angles as possible. Other than that, currently mostly also occupied with adding new metrics to our risk dashboard. We should soon have auction statistics page automated and deployed, so you'll be able to see directly how well auctions performed in a similar format that I gave a presentation the last time. We're also deploying a simulator where users will be able to simulate, actually community will be able to simulate losses for maker loans based on parameters picked. So this should be really interesting in our view because we could crowdsource some of the inputs we're using now for our risk models. And some of the inputs that we're using are subjective at times. So it would be good to see, how users interact and what they simulate. And then finally, we are also building a page where all our past and upcoming recommendations for any parameter change and all our research and collateral evaluations, everything will be uploaded and broken down into segments. And then the community or future risk analysts can actually follow our proposals, our work we do. I see it much easier than now because you would likely need to go under searching forums, but this will look much nicer and much more broken down into categories. And I think that's it from our side for this week. Yes.
Awesome. Still not seeing any questions, so I think we'll move on to real world finance. See you there, Seb.
Hello, everyone. Yeah, so for this week, my update will be related not to a specific topic, but to not a feeling, but let's say to some shutters. It was bring to my attention at least 3 times those last 10 days that some people want to remove me, which is fine. But I think I try to work for MakerDAO as best as I can. And I want to let everyone know that I would not take it personally, but I want to continue to work for MakerDAO in the Syrian way. And yeah, I don't know what to add actually. Maybe I should have prepared. Yeah.
Is there a proposal up to remove you, Seb?
No, that's what I'm asking for.
Okay.
Because I do work, I don't do politics. So if someone wants me to play politics, this will not going to happen.
Somebody advocating for this? I haven't even heard of this.
Yeah, it's on the back channels.
Yeah,
well,
I mean,
no, it's on the forum, but on
Seb,
the
I would,
thread on.
I mean, I would keep operating as though, I mean, because you don't know what the will of the community is in this particular case. So
yeah, exactly. That's thanks, Chris.
Yeah, there's always going to be some squeaky wheels, man. You're in a very like public role. What we're doing is recorded and posted on YouTube. You just can't please everybody.
Yeah, no, that's not a problem. But that's why I'm moving forward. I want to focus on the job, and I know that those last few weeks, I spend a lot of time. I'm sometimes up to half a day every day to deal with this, and I don't see how we can make something great if we can not work 100% on what we want to achieve. And that's why I think, yeah, exactly. I'm working for all Maker token holders. And so I cannot please everyone, and that's fine. But yeah, I'm trying to understand what Maker token holders want. And my job is to do the best thing I can to please all Maker token holders, not some in particular.
Yeah, can I just jump in here and add like a quick thought? If anybody is actually like unsatisfied with anybody in the organization of the DAO, I suggest instead of like posting a weird comment on the forum that might be open-ended, instead to reach out to that person directly and to give them actual constructive feedback. Like it's one thing to say, oh, you suck, but it's another thing to say, hey, like I noticed your updates don't really have this information and I'd find that information important. Like, can you please start adding that? So as a community, I think we should focus on constructive feedback because I don't know, I'm of the opinion that Seb, you've been doing a great job. I totally support you in your role. And so yeah, don't take that too hard. And I totally encourage everybody to give feedback in the right way.
No, yeah. To be honest, I don't look for support. I'm just trying to explain that going forward, I think we should focus on the job and not on the politics.
Seb, I think Bros mentioned it already, but it's not about the person, right? It's about the idea. So I'm sure we can reach an understanding as a community. We're still small to be able to talk to each other and make sure that these things are a speed bump and not a halt.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, everyone.
And Long is going to be back on Monday. Like if there are governance things, I am here. But yeah, want to echo the support for you, Seb, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. Looks like we have growth next for our core unit. Nadia, are you on the call? There you are.
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm sharing with you the link of the updates for this week. A lot of updates this week. With Jen, we were in Miami. It was great. We had a lot of meetings. One of the meetings was with Aave Pro, and that was like what inspired the forum post that I did a couple of days ago. We talked with them, and because we wanted to understand what it takes to have like an institutional product. And it was very interesting because, well, what they are doing, and I invite everyone here to go and read the forum because I explain a lot of what institutional vaults are and what are our opportunities if we decide in going in that direction. But well, in the case of Aave, maybe it's like a little bit more easy because they have to create a separate pool of the one that they are using for these institutions, because that is what requires to work with them. They are including in this pool USDC, of course, Ether, Bitcoin, and Aave. There's like, we could be also integrated in these pools, but we are thinking on the ways to have like a permission DAI, and that could be solved if we do the D3M implementation. So it's interesting how like we are like trying to figure out the way how the Maker protocol could work for these institutions and provide a service for them. We also, in that sense, we talked with Celsius. They are asking for something similar, and this is also interesting because they want the Cell token listed as onboarded as collateral. So what they are proposing, because of course now we are aware of the costs that have to incorporate a new collateral into the protocol. So when we are talking with these new projects or companies who want to onboard their collateral, we always are interested about understanding like who will use that vault, and they want to engage all their community, like using Twitter to ask to their community if they would open a Maker vault in case the Maker community decides to include it. So, well, it's something to think about now that we are like thinking about if we should like shut down some collaterals or not. We also should start thinking about what we will ask in the future to the new collaterals to be onboarded. So this is interesting, and it's just an idea to think about. We also had a meeting with Opera. They integrated DAI, so if you have Android, you can like use the DAI wallet on there. It is mainly for Android because Opera browser has a huge presence in emerging markets, like is very used in Nigeria, for example. The DAI integration is in beta for now because of the use case. It is used in emerging markets, so because of gas fees, it's impossible to use. So we are talking with them and having conversations so they integrate Optimism DAI. That will be great, a really cool use case when they launch it. We were also talking with BlockFi, but more details coming soon. And this is super cool because like it was huge. Like in Miami, everyone was like talking about NFTs more than Bitcoin. That was like funny. So we are talking with a Gameverse. I think it's how they want to be called. I'm not saying the name because they want to keep all secret, but we will have like our own space, and they are thinking about like maybe a maker bank, very futurist style, where we can like just hang out there or have the office hours, or well, it will be like another place in the metaverse for us. So I think it's cool. We're like talking about having NFTs for us and all of that. And starts of the week, well, Korea and LATAM. I don't want to take much time explaining you about this, but in Korea, DAI was listed in BitHump. There's also Maker listed. But the cool thing is that it's an on-off ramp from fiat to DAI, and DAI is the first stablecoin that they list. And also this hardware wallet, they listed DAI, but in Clayton. So we are starting to see a lot more adoption of DAI in other networks, and that's what we are looking for, like to have presence in all these other networks and not just on Ethereum, to enable more services and use cases for everyone. So awesome job, Jocelyn and Du, who are working in the Asia region, and also Luis, who works for the LATAM region. He organized this tournament with Axie. It is super interesting because I invite you all to watch the video about how Axie is used in countries like Venezuela or Philippines, and it's a way to earn money, and it's like almost a job for them. So very cool things this week. Also next week, I think is going to be the tournament. I will like update this post with the confirmed date of the tournament, just in case you want to watch it. It will be streamed by a popular streamer on Twitch and YouTube. So that's also great because we will reach to all these like gamers that they don't know much about crypto. So it's a great place to like start spreading the word. So that was this week for us.
Nadia, I have a question. Do we get a chance to reach out to anyone in El Salvador yet? I mean, I know that's a big news this week, but it seems like there's a lot of potential there. Obviously, if they're going to have Bitcoin as legal tender, then and the US dollar is also legal tender there. It seems like there's sort of going to be a lot of opportunities for BTC vaults with DAI as well. So
yeah, absolutely. We are on that. It was a surprise for us, El Salvador, because like they are not that into crypto. So like there are not so many exchanges there. Like actually, it was hard to convert fiat to crypto. So like the crypto space in there is almost like there's no crypto space. So it was a surprise for all. So, but yeah, we are trying to reaching out. Like it's pretty common in those countries to see not crypto exchanges, but ATMs, because banks, they don't want to work with crypto companies. So we are reaching out to these ATM crypto companies to see what we can do with them. So yeah, we are on that.
Awesome.
Wonderful. Moving on, I believe SCS is next. So Juan, you giving the update? Looks like it.
Yes, can you see my screen?
Looking good.
Okay, so this is Juan from SCS, Sustainable Ecosystem Scaling. Quick update so I don't bore everyone, but just to go really fast. The project Dogfood keeps moving forward. This is the one that will help other people to actually create core units. As a reminder, and we're already assisting other core units with the different things such as legal setups, payments, and whatnot, and actually helping projects navigate the maker governance, hopefully to onboard.
One, sorry to interrupt. Only see half the screen. Yeah.
Better.
Yep.
That's very weird. Nice Zoom. Okay, so on the business development side, we're quite excited. We just closed the deal. We're going to be giving more details next week, but things are looking quite nice on that end. And we're also discussing 3 deals for future core units to join the incubator program. So we're quite excited regarding that. And we're working on the OKRs and as improve SES portal coming soon. I'm tempted to put the trademark there. Regarding the incubation program, I mentioned already that the talent core unit started this month and it's already live. I'm going to be talking about that in a second. And the DAX core unit, which is the front end, is going to have a meet and greet tomorrow at 2:30 UTC in the SES weekly update call, so you're more than welcome to join. And yeah, there's more coming. Regarding the talent core unit, I don't know, Theodore, if you want to give a quick update on this.
Sure, it would be great. We're making small steps, but we know we definitely know we're certain about the direction we're going towards. Now we've started to have initial conversation with different core units, assess their needs a bit better, try to understand what type of people they would like to have as part of their teams and to sustain their goals. And we should shortly, soon enough, have a talent portal as well. Next week, we will align on our objectives with the SES and aim to set a game plan for the next 3 months. And in case everyone would need help with writing job descriptions, putting together a funnel for interviews, outreach in terms of candidates, and just ensure that people understand the maker ethos, we're more than glad to help. Reach out on Discord, email, and that's about it from our side. Thanks, Juan, for the intro.
Thank you, Theo. Yeah, we did a call that you can check on our public folder where Theo goes into detail regarding how they help, but basically it takes a lot of effort from the core unit because they help writing the job description, reaching out, filtering the candidates, explaining how Maker works. So that's quite useful in general. So reach out to him if you want, or if you think that you might need their help. Regarding the Maker community, we have, I think it was yesterday, we had Kathleen present again their strategic marcoms. Quite interesting to see their new proposal, really well done. So please go to the YouTube if you want to see it. And we also had the Lex Maker series with the DAO Foundation, speaking out Maker, IP, and a bunch of legal stuff, also already on YouTube. Regarding collateral onboarding, we will have Stefan from Gnosis next week to present their MIP6 for GNO or GNO. I'm not sure how to call that. And we are talking with Leah to close a date to bring Monetiel Capital partners for that. So stay tuned. Our office hours, as a reminder, are Tuesdays at 1:30 UTC, so slightly before the ones from the PE core unit. That's it from us. Thank you.
Awesome. We did have a question in the chat from Mariano. Looks like it was directed at.
Yeah, I just have one question. What is onboarding service providers into the ecosystem?
Do you want to take that one, Wouter, or I'm not sure if you have a microphone.
Yeah, I do. Yeah, so because I tried to clarify because we used the term BD on the slides, and this we're talking about something quite specific. It's a model that we are developing to get service providers onboarded into the ecosystem. So, for example, any service that might be provided to the DAO that is needed. So, for example, let's take something like, for example, a company that does email marketing campaigns, right? So that's a service provider. If we see that they would have a product or a service that might be interesting for the DAO, then we reach out to them and we basically explain to them how they can work for the DAO, right? So for a decentralized protocol, and that's it's quite a bit of work because these companies, of course, they're used to work for clients that are centralized organizations, so they're used to have a person on the other side that they can talk to and that they can negotiate the contract with, and that the contract can be signed and that they then will get paid in the traditional way. So what we do is we help these service providers to understand what the differences are when you are working for a DAO as opposed to a centralized client, and we help them to create a business unit inside of their organization. So a dedicated team that specializes in Maker, and that could then ultimately put up their own MIP to provide that service in the long term to the Maker ecosystem. And the other part of that is the incubator program that that is already up and running. So when we do onboard these service providers in the ecosystem, there is so much to explain and to organize together with them there that we are suggesting that they join the incubator program, and that we can in that way help them to basically develop within their area of expertise a business model that works for the DAO and specifically for MakerDAO. So that's what we mean by onboarding service providers. We'll be able to document that more and make sure that this structure is properly explained and understood. But the reactions we get so far from the parties that we're talking to are very excited. So yeah, we're hopeful this might be very useful.
Thank you.
Awesome, and I'll keep us moving along here. So we have time for discussion at the end. Seth from Content Production, I believe you said you had an update this week.
Yeah, thanks, Peyton. Just dropped a link in the chat to our update in the forum. Main focus for this week's been hiring. We're looking for a couple of writers and a video producer to help us out. Big thanks to Juan, Tio, Andrew, everybody else who's sent us some candidates already. We're interviewing this week and next, and we're hoping to get that nailed down, start getting them onboarded. Other main point of news this week is that the vote on a mascot has ended with a tie between the capybara and the dragon. So to figure this out, we think the best thing to do is host some kind of art contest. And we want to get feedback from the community on the best way to do that. So we're planning on scheduling a planning session next week, and we're going to reach out to a bunch of the people who've shown interest in that. So if you're interested, please get in touch otherwise. Yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet for this week. If anybody's got questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, I'll send it back to Peyton.
Awesome. Love art contests, so I'll be keeping an eye out for that. That brings us through the core unit updates. So David, toss it over to you here. I might need to give you permissions.
Yes, please. Give it just a sec.
Should be there. Woohoo.
All right, sweet. All right, cool. Yeah, welcome everybody to the weekly MIPS update. My name is David Utrobin. I am a fellow MIP editor and contributor, and I'm actually proposing a core unit. But yeah, today I'm talking in the capacity of a MIP editor. So yeah, welcome to the monthly cycle of June. Things are significantly different this cycle. So we've actually updated like what the votes are and how the monthly cycle operates this month as a result of MIP 51 passing last month's governance cycle. And so here is a visual of what the calendar this month looks like. Nothing has changed with regards to formal submissions. They still happen on the first week of the month. The only thing that has changed is instead of an inclusion poll, a bundled governance poll, and then a bundled executive vote, there's just a single 2-week ratification poll for every MIP and MIP set. So if there's a MIP set, like 3 related MIPs, they'll run in one poll. But besides that, there's no more bundling. So really happy about that. And also it gives MKR voters 2 weeks to vote rather than like 3 days on 3 different votes that aren't even on weekends, right? So overall, this has been a really cool thing to see. And so be mindful as an MKR voter this month that things are a little different. So we have 9 formal submissions this June. So one of them is MIP 54 DSS Vest. It's a technical MIP that contains code for the MKR vesting module. So definitely check that out. The rest are all core unit related. So we have a second governance facilitator being onboarded for Gov Alpha, that is if it gets voted through. So Peyton Rose for our second official governance facilitator, definitely check that out. We have actually 4 different budget modifications. I forgot to edit that little 3 to a 4. But yeah, we have SP11, which is Gov Alpha's updated budget. We have SP12, which is Real World Finance's updated budget. We have SP13, which is Risk. And then we have SP17, which is the Sustainable Ecosystem Scaling Core Unit. And all of the budgets are actually moving in the upward direction and with merit, of course. So definitely check out the details of all of those. And then lastly, we have one full brand new core unit being proposed, the Oracle's core unit. So really anticipating that. Congrats, Nick, on getting those up. And yeah, looking forward to voting on all of this. So yeah, all in all, there's one technical MIP, 8 core unit related MIPs, and no amendments to anything else. As for week 2 and week 3 of this governance cycle, which is next week and the week after, there's only really one thing relevant to the monthly cycle, which is the 2-week ratification polls. So they go live on June 14th at 4 p.m. UTC, and they end 2 weeks later on June 28th, 4 p.m. UTC. So definitely vote on those whenever they're up. And just to review what ratification polls actually are. So again, they're 2 weeks. In order for them to pass, there is a minimum positive participation value of 10,000 MKR, meaning that the yes must exceed the no when the poll closes. That's number 1. But then also the yes vote weight must exceed the minimum positive participation value when the poll closes. So there has to be a 10,000 MKR lead on yes, basically. And so, yeah, it's a binary poll, which in maker terms means it's yes, no, abstain. And so, yeah, those are ratification polls. And as for new MIPs in RFC, we saw Amy Jung post MIP 55, which is called the Special Purpose Fund. It's a fund for fulfilling a narrow, specific, or temporary objective, and it uses like a 2 of 3 multi-sig with community mandated signers called comptrollers. And this type of fund actually, like there's a very similar example that the Gov Alpha core unit actually used. They had an interim DAO multi-sig for a little while between themselves and a few other core unit mandated actors. And so this is kind of like a more formal version of that. If core units have like one-off things that they want to fund, and yeah. It gives a little bit more tools in the tool belts of core units. So really cool to see that. There's also MIP 52, which is dispute resolution posted by Greg. This is also coming to be another interesting primitive in the DAO MIP toolbook, whatever you want to call it. But it's a process by which any community member or stakeholder, they can elevate an issue basically directly to MKR holders. And there's really interesting details in that proposal. I highly suggest you guys read it because it implies, well, it doesn't imply, it explicitly states that in order to actually go through this process, there's a cost. So if you want your conflict or anything to be resolved by MKR holders, there is a certain amount of MKR that you should be burning. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, it's $10,000 worth of MKR at the time of the dispute resolution request. So yeah, check that out, super interesting. And then lastly, we have, actually, I don't think it's last, but we have a new budget modification being posted. So Marketing 001, which is content production, posted a budget modification for their next quarter of funding. As for core units in RFC, we have collateral onboarding actually converted their name to Collateral Engineering Services. So this is Monkey Irish still leading it. And after doing the pod session and getting some feedback, yeah, he polished up those proposals. So highly encourage you all to check those out. There's also still the Strategic Happiness core unit being proposed by St. Bourbon. This is a pretty low budget, just like a meme shit poster core unit that everybody loves to joke about. And, you know, it's cool to have some positivity and some memes in the community. So consider that. We also saw a new marketing team being proposed, Amazix Marketing, proposed by Mitchell from Amazix. I saw those proposals up in the forum this week, and we assigned them special proposal numbers and everything. It is a team with a proposed annual budget of around $2.5 million a year, very similar to the, well, actually, I guess it's like half of the current Marcom's team's budget. But also the team size is smaller. There's 5 permanent team members. And also there's a lot of kind of questions on the forum that they haven't addressed. So this is fresh in RFC. Looking forward to see like the back and forth with these proposers. And then on the flip side, we have strategic Marcoms, which actually just went through a monthly governance cycle and was rejected. They, Kathleen and the team, have put together a new version of the proposal with brand new SP numbers, and they are doing it again. So RFC period has just began for their proposals, so highly suggest reading through it and continuing to give feedback as a community. And again, like the main difference is the annual budget is approximately the same as their old proposal, but this one has no moonshot fund, which was an additional $5 million a year just to have for like special partnerships. So they took that out of the proposal. And then the team information changed a little bit. There's a team size of 8 with 3 planned hires. I think before it was like 6 people and like 9 planned hires or something. But either way, check those out, and hopefully the second round goes better. We also saw governance communications, which is the core unit that I'm actually proposing. It also received a renewed mandate, so we actually opted not to go through a governance cycle. Instead, we took an extra month or 2 to refine the proposal, and we posted a renewed version on May 26th. So go check that out. The proposed annual budget is about $500,000 a year, with a permanent team size of around 3 people, and also 7 to 10 contributors. It's kind of a revolving door. But yeah, check those out, and definitely leave feedback or DM me. Or, yeah, always appreciated. And then other updated statuses for MIPs. So we saw MIP 53, which was proposed by Planet X. The MKR compensation guidelines that were proposed by Planet X, and in partnership with the working group that was formed to produce this plan. And so Planet X actually withdrew that post, and I thought I had actually screenshotted his comment, but yeah, he withdrew it, and I'm happy to actually give the floor to Planet X if he's here, if he wants to talk a bit about the reasoning for the withdrawal. But he did talk about it in the comment on the forums, so feel free to check that out if you're curious. And yeah, I encourage everybody to go on the forums. I think Elihu has been, and generally the GovAlpha team has been doing a great job fixing the categories and making things a lot more user-friendly. So if you are curious in MIPS, yeah, check out the categories. Everything is tagged out. You know, you could pretty much search pretty reliably for things that you're trying to find. And also, if you're interested in contributing to MIPS, don't hesitate to reach out to anyone here. They'll point you in the right direction. And likewise, I'm happy to help as well. So yeah, thanks. That's my update for this week. And yeah, cheers, everyone.
You want to bring up what you had in chat there, one?
Yeah, Dave, I was wondering if you skipped on purpose the MIP proposed. I don't know. I don't want to speak for anyone, but I don't think that's fair for anyone posting a MIP to get ignored.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, I think it was an accident. I didn't realize that I missed this. Okay, so this is an additional little update. So we did see a budget modification MIP get posted to the forum by Demios, I think is how you pronounce the user's name. So this is actually a really interesting case because it's the first time that a non-team member or non-facilitator of a core unit has posted like a budget modification on behalf of another core unit. So this community member posted, this modification for GovAlpha, basically just saying, hey, like I want this team to get MKR compensation. And this was interesting. We talked a bit about it in the internal like governance domain. chat channel, and yeah, it was kind of like I wasn't sure like at first glance how to really respond. Like, do I assign this proposal an SP number? Like, even though like it's not the facilitator of the core unit or like a team member. So ultimately, we decided, like I decided in my response to give 2 paths. Like, one is to move forward. Like, I gave my recommendation. I think that budget modifications and really core unit related proposals should come from either the facilitator of that core unit or a member of. And if somebody from the outside is proposing, I think somebody from that team has to clear it with the MIP editor before we like actually treat it, because it's kind of like, I don't know. And I'm also open because this is kind of a new situation that I'm thinking through, and Juan has also given me a ton of like the other side of the argument. So at the moment, it's like a little weird, but the author is totally cool. He's happy to let GovAlpha actually take over that that budget modification. But yeah, it was totally unintentional by accident that I left that out.
I guess the one thing I would add is like it wouldn't be all budget modifications, right? Like, because like, let's say you wanted to defund a core unit, assumedly a core unit wouldn't do that themselves. But this is a pretty interesting case for us to think about and talk about on the forums, as it is like with vesting, particularly a vesting with without a prior plan in place. So I do encourage everyone to hit up that forum and leave your thoughts as we figure out how we want to roll with it. Cool. So just wanted to confirm, Long will be back Sunday evening to add things into the voting portal for the MIPs that will be relevant. In the meantime, I can tell you that we have gone over all the qualifications and ensured that the 9 MIPs that David just presented are good to go and will be appearing on the ratification polls. So that'll do for our acknowledgement from the governance core unit. And like I said, it will still be going through Long for Wisdom as a final check as the person uploading the polls. So don't believe that's in any breach of our standard for doing things there. So at this point, I did want to circle back. It looks like we still do have about 17 minutes left in our planned call time to the discussion about the Uni V2 DAI USDC vault type. There was a little bit of additional context I wanted to give in here as well. There was a small typo in the section basically going over the copy of the different options. Luckily, on the vote itself, all options appeared correct, so we don't believe that in any way influenced the vote, but I do think it's important to disclose. Just get that out of the way first. And second, wanted to circle back to this discussion. It's pretty clear from the community that lowering the liquidation ratio was preferred. That option was the #1 option. It was a ranked choice vote, overwhelmingly so. So we do believe there's community intention to drop to a much lower liquidation ratio, but with Nick's comment in mind from the Oracle side, we do think that it is appropriate to put it in this week's executive at 102% liquidation ratio rather than the winning option, which was 101. And the liquidations will still be off for that. Talking to Pramosh, I don't know if you want to add some color here, but basically from the risk perspective, we would need to change some of the ilk hole parameters for how much we're allowing into the liquidations at once. If we were to flip the liquidation switch on, so that probably will take some time to think about and execute in a prudent manner. But if anyone had any questions regarding that topic or wanted to discuss it further, I figured this would be the time to do so. And Sam did post in the chat. He was the author of the signal that led to this vote, and saying like, he obviously thinks we should only continue it down to 101% if it's okay with mandated actors. So that loop's kind of closed as well.
Yeah, it's kind of in line with what we've been doing, governance signals, intent, and mandated actors, with technical experience can sort of like take a lighter approach if need be, or a more measured approach.
Yeah, so without strong community objection, that is the plan for tomorrow. The copy will be to be dropping to 102% rather than the 101. And like Nick said, we can still do a further signal if we want to push it down further to 101. We might need to get liquidations figured out. I don't know if there'd be an order of operations thing there or not. But those are the two things that would probably need to be sorted as we tinker with it further. Seems like most people are okay with that discussion. Do feel free to reach out to me privately. We do have the governance suggestion box as well. That's a great way if perhaps you want to express some dissent, but you're worried about tying your identity to it. That does get read every week. And yeah, I encourage using that for anyone who's not comfortable either publicly or privately coming forward. So Teo actually posted a good question there. What is the price difference we would need to occur in order to get liquidated on a 102% ratio? Is that compared to like 101?
No, compared to the previous one.
Gotcha. Yeah, it is dropping down from 105%, which I believe is 20x leverage, and this would be up to 50x leverage if I'm doing the math correct. I don't know. Leverage is always gets a little wonky.
So not that much rematch.
Yeah, well, yeah, but still you can lever up both, but these are stable coin pairs, right? So in theory, neither DAI nor USDC should be departing too much from their peg. And for the base Oracle, we do still have those at one.
Okay.
So it's more in terms of like the concern comes from the stability fee. Basically, if the pool itself is not earning more than the stability fee, then that would push the items over into liquidation. I see Nick pop out on camera.
Got
so if you want to think about it further, say where I'm wrong.
You're doing such a great job. Continue.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all for me. Basically, that if the stability fee were to outpace the fees generated by the pool, which especially with the transfer to V3 is kind of looking to be the case, that could result in the positions being under collateralized, which not a good deal for us, despite the good intent of the people bringing the assets into the protocol. So dropping the stability fee to 0.5% does help mitigate that as well. It was at 1% before. Because that's correct, right, Nick, in terms of the inputs being locked at 1, it's just the, oh, you're muted.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, right. The DAI is hard pegged to 1, USDC is hard pegged to 1 in the protocol, and the LP token is only increasing, right, because of the trading fees that are generated, right? So yeah, it's only the stability fees that can put you in the liquidation range.
Do we have any other questions or need for clarification there?
So Sam mentioned an interesting point that is more theoretical than practical, but yes, theoretically, if DAI or USDC hard depegged, and we had so much impermanent loss that it drops below the fees generated by the pool. I will say it's highly unlikely, but theoretically, yes, that could happen.
We might have larger problems if that were to occur as well. All right. Are there any other topics for discussion? I know we're coming up on the end of our planned meeting time here. I am happy to ended early, but also want to give a chance if there are things that haven't been discussed or anyone on the call would like to discuss something further during the recorded portion. That's now. Here's your chance. If I had a gavel, I'd be raising. All right, I think that's probably enough for today's call. Juan, I'll go ahead and ask you to stop the recording if you don't mind.